over at BangTheBook.com. We are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. Lots of great stuff over there being written up by our very talented cast of writers. Unfortunately, Corey Pabst, with a change in his work schedule, so his Market Watch article, he won't be able to do it anymore. So I picked it up here this week for college football. I'll also do one for the NFL over at the website, so you can keep an eye out for those every Friday here over the course of the season with some thoughts on where sharp action is, what's going on with some of these line movements out in the marketplace. Basically, it'll be a good complimentary piece to my opening line report, which gets posted every Monday over at BangTheBook.com for both college football and the NFL. So I'll open it up on Mondays. I'll close it out on Fridays. Obviously, we'll see what happens with those line moves on Saturday and Sundays for the games. And that's where Bang the Book Radio comes in, where we'll talk about all that stuff over the course of the 5 shows a week here on the program. Also over at the website, my college football power ratings are updated. Alan Moody's starting to do his football stuff for his college football total of the week, college football and NFL system picks. He'll be doing a lot of stuff for us here over the course of the football season, so plenty to keep an eye on with that. He's also still doing baseball. He's a better man than I, as I gave up baseball a few weeks ago, but he's still doing it over at BangTheBook.com to give us a presence on the diamond, so good to see that. Speaking of a presence on the diamond, however, I will be doing the Bettors Box on Monday. Did get a Monday mailbag question already as well, so at Skating Tripods on Twitter or Adam at BangTheBook.com. If you have any questions for the Monday mailbag, also going to be doing that Bettors Box edition there before we chat on Monday with Kyle Hunter for our Week 2 college football first look. So you look forward to that coming up after the weekend. But at the website, we got some NASCAR stuff written up for you. I'll be doing a UFC preview here today. We'll have a lot of college football content, a lot of NFL content. Going to start rolling out some NHL stuff next month, some NBA stuff next month as well. So, hey, the sports calendar never stops, and we cover all the different markets for you over at BangTheBook.com. As you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB and the number 200 is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the sportsbook, 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. As you know, I was out in Vegas earlier in the week here, got signed up for the Westgate SuperContest, the Circa Million, and the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge. If you want to get involved in any of those or the William Hill Pick'em, Vegas Maddie and Tony over at footballcontest.com are our preferred proxy service. They've done a great job for us. We know they'll do a great job for you as well. Tell them that Bang the Book Radio sent you, and you'll get a nice offer there, or you get a nice opportunity there from them to be part of their proxy program. And look, if you live outside of the state of Nevada, you do have to sign up in person for all of the contests, but you have to have a proxy put in your picks because you're outside of the state. So that's where Maddie and Tony come in. They've done such a great job for us. It was good to catch up with them last weekend and see them down at the Westgate and also downtown. So, again, Maddie and Tony over at footballcontest.com. And with that in mind here, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the Super Contest and the Circa Million, as well as the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge. I'll give you an idea of what they are in case you can make a last-minute trip out there to Vegas and get signed up. Also give you some thoughts on my strategies for those contests as well. And yes, the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge includes college football, but it does not include week 1 of college football. It starts with week 2 of the college football season when the NFL starts for week 1. So if you're not signed up already, don't worry, you didn't miss anything. But the Golden Nugget, last year we finished tied for 20th, and they paid out the top 20 spots, but for 20th place, they chopped the $1,000 3 ways. So $1,000 entry fee, we made the money, but lost money. Unfortunately, that's still the operating rule here for this year. They didn't change that at all. But it's one of those things where we finished a half point behind the people in front of us. And in fact, we even had a higher cover rate. We had a higher win rate than the people ahead of us, but didn't have as many pushes or however the math worked out. So we wind up finishing tied for 20th there in the money, lost a little bit of money. But that one's particularly interesting with the NFL and the college football options. Now, across the board with these contests, the lines come out on Wednesday. So you do have a lot of people that just try to grab line value. They try to take advantage of what's happened out in the marketplace. let's say in the Golden Nugget you can get a 7.5 on a number that's now 6.5 or something like that for college football or the NFL. And a lot of people do just grab those line moves. Also, a lot of people, go the traditional route, handicapping the games, looking for opportunities, stuff like that. For us, it's certainly a hybrid type of strategy where, if there are some line moves and you can get some line equity, those are things that you want to look to take advantage of. On the other hand, I like to handicap the games. I like to go through the process, see what I like, see what my power ratings say from a college football standpoint, look at some of the situational elements that are in play, and then go from there. So it's a total package handicap for us. Some people out there, they try to actively go against the consensus. They try to be contrarian, and sometimes that works really, really well in the SuperContest. Sometimes it doesn't. We don't necessarily know how that top 5 consensus is going to do this year. Usually it's somewhere in the 50 to 51, 52% range, which gets you nowhere in the SuperContest and will probably get you nowhere in the Circa Million as well. So there are a lot of factors. There are a lot of considerations here. With the Golden Nugget, we typically take, the best plays from the SuperContest, our best plays in the NFL, and then I do a lot of the college legwork and, compare to my power ratings and things of that sort. When it comes to the SuperContest, it is a little bit more nuanced because, you're going up against a lot of people. And even the Circa Million this year, first time around, we'll see how things go with that. But when you talk about going up against, 3,500 people in the SuperContest, there are some additional considerations. There are some different things that you absolutely have to look at. Do you want to go against the grain? Because a lot of times those are 2-game swings. Do you want to go with the consensus and just kind of try to keep pace? Early on in the season, it's all about picking winners. I don't worry about any of the strategic elements until we get later on in the year. I want to get off to a good start. I want to put myself in a position to hopefully have a shot at the money. It's all about just trying to make winning selections. So that's what I try to do in both of these contests. I don't worry about who's playing what. I don't worry about what the consensus percentages look like at any of the odds services out there. I just want to pick winners. I just want to do everything in my power to position myself for success, to keep myself in the running. Now, the ironic thing of it all is that when it came to the Westgate SuperContest last year, I was 10, 25, and 5 in the NFL over the first 8 weeks of the season. 10, 25, and 5. Now, the problem with the SuperContest, start bad, you're done. You have no chance. So even though I went 31, 13, and 1 over the last 9 weeks of the SuperContest, finished a little bit above 500. Look, with a 10 and 25 start, I was thrilled to get to 500. That was a win for me last year. But obviously, it doesn't get you anywhere near the money. Even 60% in the SuperContest doesn't get you in the money. Typically, the money starts at about 62 or 61.5%. So it is a challenge. But that's the thing. You can't bury yourself early on in these contests. One of the reasons why I gave up Major League Baseball, with still 6-7 weeks left in the season, is to try and avoid exactly that. Is to try and get off to a better start in the NFL and also be able to focus a little bit more on my college football handicapping for the purposes of these contests. And look, I understand that, except for the Golden Nugget, which only had, I think, 308 people last year, probably be in the 350 or 375 range this year, looking at the Circa Million and the SuperContest, you are a long shot to cash. I fully understand that. But with our Bang the Book name on these contests, with the emphasis we give them, with multiple articles over at the website, and also a lot of conversation here on Bang the Book Radio, it was important for me to put all of my focuses on that. So that's one of the reasons why I gave up baseball, along with the fact that, I just wasn't having a very good season with it. But when you look at these contests here, again, you have to get off to a good start. Now, at least the Circa Million has some quarterly prizes as well. So you do have additional chances to, try and make some money in that. The SuperContest, you really only have the mini contest for weeks 15 through 17. And week 17 could be an absolute mess, depending on playoff scenarios, teams resting guys, things of that sort. So I think the Circa Million has a little bit more preferred of a format. The entry fee for that was $1,000. The entry fee for the Super Contest, $1,500. Right now, the Circa Million still has a little bit of an overlay with the $1.5 million prize pool. $1 million going to the winner for that. We'll see how many more signups they get this week before the games start on Thursday here. But overall, I'm going to have a Super Contest segment every Friday, and my Super Contest picks will probably pretty closely mirror my Circa Million picks. Obviously, it depends on the lines that are being posted for these contests and stuff like that. But when it comes to the NFL, I don't have power ratings. I don't see the same amount of equity in power ratings as I do for the college football side. So in the NFL, it is a lot of situational stuff. It's a lot of schematic stuff. It's a lot of matchup-based stuff. And it's not to say I don't use that from a college football standpoint. I certainly do. But the starting point for me in college football is the power ratings. The starting point for me in the NFL is, kind of looking at the numbers and seeing where they are, looking around key numbers, looking for any line value you can get, because the NFL, in theory, should be a much closer, much tighter style of play in terms of final scores. So the line should come into play more often than it does. Now, of course, we know in the NFL that the line doesn't come into play as much as you would think with the number of outright upsets and the number of favorites that cover by a large margin. So maybe we get a little bit too tied up in looking at the numbers, but you still want to get as much equity as possible, because it's that one time when you don't get a hook that the game falls on that key number. So with the NFL, I think it's a much different animal from college football. We'll see what this year winds up looking like. Haven't really done too much of my NFL legwork as of yet. I'm going to try to do a lot more of that here over the weekend and early next week. But, look, I think these contests are great. I think that, they generate a lot of interest as we go, throughout the years here with more legalization on a state-by-state level. Maybe we get a multi-state super contest, or, we're going to get different operators putting together different contests. Pennsylvania, for example, where online betting is allowed, as long as you live in the state and have the apps or you have access to the state. At Bet Rivers, they're doing a pick'em contest. You're just picking straight up winners, and you get a point for each winner. So, a lot of contests should be popping up here nationwide as we get legalized sports betting in additional states. So that should be a whole lot of fun. That should be something for us to keep a close eye on here over the years. Obviously, with us, with the website, we focus more on the offshore markets, but we are involved in the Super Contest here. Do want to make sure that we've got that presence, as well as with the Circa Million and the Golden Nugget. So it's this Friday morning segment where I talk about my picks for the Super Contest, a little bit different, obviously. I'm used to being the host. I'm used to asking others about their opinions, and it kind of gives me the opportunity and the platform to talk about some of my thoughts. And, largely been 500 or a little bit above in the Super Contest. We did very well in the Golden Nugget last year. I anticipate doing well in the Golden Nugget again this year. So it should be a lot of fun, but that will be our Friday segment here in the mornings that precedes the odds report with Brent. So just wanted to let you know what that looks like here, for the rest of the NFL season, and kind of give you a little bit of insight into what I'm looking at with my Super Contest thoughts. Now, over at BangTheBook.com, I do a Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge recap every Tuesday, and I do a Super Contest article on Saturday, and then a recap article on Tuesday. We'll probably look at one for the Circa Million as well. But for the Super Contest, I go through, I talk about our previous week's results. I talk about, the consensus numbers, the top 5 consensus, what some of the well-known accounts or well-known contestants are doing in the Super Contest as well. So that's kind of a reporting piece, but where I also report on, the plays that we have, because for this Friday morning segment, a lot of things can happen with practice reports on Fridays in the NFL, injury reports, line moves, stuff like that. We don't have to get our picks to our proxy until 10 a.m. Eastern time on Saturday morning. So I generally have 3 or 4 of my plays squared off for the Super Contest segment on that we record on Thursday nights, but then there are sometimes some changes. So you can read that article over at the website. It'll tell you exactly what we're going to play here for the Super Contest and the Circa Million, and then you'll see the Tuesday recap of what we played there in the Golden Nugget. So just some thoughts on how those 3 contests will be handled over at BangTheBook.com. All right, so just to spend a few minutes here talking some college football, then I'm going to stop the recording, cobble together the show, including the segment from Brent, so I'll go ahead and get that up here as quickly as I possibly can. But just taking a look at the college football market here for this weekend, and it's interesting. We're seeing some Friday movement out there. Wisconsin line going back up a little bit. We're seeing the Colorado line move a little bit. Rutgers getting a little bit more attention as well. But by and large right now, we're not seeing a whole lot of line activity in the marketplace for Friday or Saturday. And of course, that will change for Saturday. But this is something that's been kind of an interesting development and something that we didn't talk enough about this week on the show. Something we will talk about next week is that, lately we've seen a lot of big money moves on game days. A lot of times we saw a lot of sharper bettors get in with their numbers early in the week, get the best of it, then kind of sit and wait around and see if maybe they wanted to hedge back, partial hedge, do some arbitrage, something like that, depending on how much line value they got. But lately it almost seems like, with injury reports and with some of the different things happening out there in the marketplace, we're seeing a lot of line-moving money come in on Sundays. And it's not just public movement, and the public can move a line. If there's no sharp action on a game and the public's coming in heavily one-sided, that can have an impact. The public can move lines. I don't think people realize that. The public won't move lines a lot. They won't move lines to the same degree that sharp activity will. But the public can move lines if it's a game where there just hasn't been a whole lot of sharp investment on it, or the risk managers realize, maybe we're not getting sharp action on this game. We should probably move in response to some of this public activity that we've been getting. It does happen. It's not a frequent thing, but it does happen out there in the marketplace. Typically with some of these standalone games where, maybe sharp guys just aren't seeing value, but the public's playing that Monday Night Football game or that Thursday night Spotlight ACC game or something like that. So it can happen. You have to differentiate between the sharp moves and the public moves out there, and that comes with experience. That comes with paying attention to your odds screen, your odds service, paying attention to the work being written up over at BangTheBook.com. But it's very important to try and get a feel for the markets and understand the nature of some of these line moves out there. And I just want to tackle a few of these here on the program. Let's look at a game, for example, like Mississippi State and Louisiana Lafayette. Game 173-174. Not a game that's going to draw a ton of public activity, especially when you look at some of the other games in the 12 o'clock time slot. This one's moving down. You've got Louisiana now down to a 20-point underdog. Line was 22.5, 23 over the summer. Now, again, it's very important to consider the context of a line move. Here you've got an SEC team in what's, by and large, a neutral site. It's not in Lafayette. Louisiana has played there multiple times over with the New Orleans Bowl and some of their other neutral site games. But, there's not a big home field advantage for Lafayette. Mississippi State's fans will travel. You get an excuse to go to New Orleans. That's not a bad thing. The line's coming down. That's a sharp move. When you see Sun Belt action against an SEC team, that's a sharper move in nature. No public activity is enough to move a line when you've got an SEC team against a Sun Belt team. So you can reasonably assume that a line move like that is sharper in nature. Let's look at Ole Miss and Memphis, game 175-176. This number goes down from 6 into the dead zone between 4 and 6, into the 5 and 4.5 range. Now, Memphis has been a very popular sharp team over the last few seasons. They're in an offense-driven conference like the AAC, and they have one of the best offenses out there. Now, they did have some coordinator turnover and stuff like that. Ole Miss, an SEC program, but a middling SEC program, a very middle-of-the-pack type of SEC team. So what is the nature of this line move? You've got an SEC team against a very accomplished AAC team, a very experienced AAC team. Well, here's my take on it, and I could be wrong. I think there is a sharp outlet out there that does like Ole Miss. But this is not an army of sharp money on Ole Miss. When you're sitting there on 6, and it's a game that maybe hasn't been bet a whole lot, and this one probably hasn't been, it's not that hard to go to 5.5 and then to keep moving down. because there aren't really any key numbers between 4 and 6. It's in that dead zone where a lot of times the market will have a lot of say as to which way that number is going to go. My guess is there's a little bit of sharp money on Ole Miss, and we haven't seen any sharp money on Memphis yet. So the risk managers have to do something. They can't sit there and wonder, will we get Memphis money to balance it out to where we're sitting pretty at 6? They have to move off of that number of 6. Go down to 5.5, see if they get some of it back, see if maybe some sharp activity was waiting for a 5.5. You have to react to what you've gotten or to what you're seeing out there in the marketplace. So again, what a line move like this suggests to me, somebody respected or some respected outlet does like Ole Miss a little bit. We haven't seen any sharp action on Memphis, and the public hasn't weighed in too much on this game to balance out the counts. So what you do is you make a little bit of a move. You test the waters. You see what happens out there. And we talked about this a lot in the upcoming segment with Brent. A point of resistance where if you get a sharp hit or even a respected hit from maybe a pseudo-sharp type of guy, you have to react. So you react and you go down a little bit and you see, okay, am I getting it back yet? If I go to 5.5, am I starting to get Memphis money? No? Well, let me try going down to 5. Let's see if I get Memphis money at 5. Nope, didn't get Memphis money at 5. Let's try 4.5. Oh, we got some Memphis money back at 4.5. Line goes back up to 5 or 5.5. So that's what it is. It's a balancing act. You think about, just scales. You've got something on the one side of the scale, so you start kind of trying to balance things out by giving some incentive to go to the other side. That's what happens with the risk managers out there in the industry. And when you see line moves, these are the types of conversations and discussions you want to be having internally or with your friends in the business or something like that to see, what is driving this line move? Will I get the number I want if you want to play the other side? Let's look at game 187, 188, for example, Virginia Tech and Boston College. This one up from 2.5 to 4.5, even some 5s now popping out there. There was one line move when Ryan Willis got named the starting quarterback at Virginia Tech, and there was another line move probably based on some sharp action now that limits are higher this week. So you go from 2.5 to 4.5 or 5, that's a substantial move. When you look at some of these other line moves that are out there, going from 20 to 18 or 22 to 20, not of great significance. When you move through key numbers of 3 and 4, that is a great indicator of significant sharp action out there in the marketplace. So what do you do as a risk manager? You keep going until you don't have to go anymore. So right now, kind of waiting to see if there's some sharp action back on Boston College at the 4.5. Whether it's somebody trying to middle an early summer 2.5 or just a sharp position getting above that key number of 4, getting on that hook at 4.5. Because look, you're not going to go all the way up to 6. And like I just mentioned, you're in a dead zone between 4 and 6. So you don't really need to do too much more at this point in time. You just sit and wait if you're a risk manager and see if you get that money back. And this is what I love about the study of the market. This is my favorite part of this business, bar none, is being able to sit there and put yourself in the mind of somebody on the other side of the counter and say, what number is this going to wind up getting to? If Boston College goes to 6, there's going to be a lot of activity on that number. At 5.5 and 5, probably not. So maybe that was a bad number from the books. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen next week is that in power ratings across the industry, maybe they had 2.5 or 3 on Virginia Tech. Well, next week, if they remade this line, it would be 5.5 or 6. So what happens is you get adjustments to these teams by the odds makers so that when they put out their opening number next week, Virginia Tech will be probably 2.5 points higher than they would have been had this line not moved. So those are the things that you want to look for out here in the marketplace and why it's so important to follow along with these line movements. Even if you're not comfortable with betting on a game yet, even if you're somebody who's, scared off by injury risk or trying to get your bankroll affairs in order, something like that, or it's a game that you don't even like, a game that's not even on your radar, keep an eye on the odds screen, see the opener, see the closer, try to notate the times when these lines actually moved. If it's a Monday or a Tuesday move, that's a sharp syndicate with a lot of clients that they want to get the pick out to. If it's a Thursday or Friday move, limits have increased. So you're going to have people probably, personal bettors and maybe some of the other syndicates and groups that are out there getting down on that number now because they can get more money down on Thursday than they could on Monday. And then on Saturday, maybe a target number came up that somebody wanted. Or maybe some sharp outlet out there is looking at the market and saying, I wanted 11.5, but I'll take 11 because my number is 8.5 or 9. So the timing of these line moves is also something of great significance. So you want to follow along with that in the marketplace as well. And again, just common sense stuff, common sense things. You see a line move on a Conference USA team against an SEC team, that's not a public line move. The public's not betting Conference USA against SEC. It's a sharp move. MAC against Big Ten. It's a sharp move. So, yeah, sometimes you can get overwhelmed by all of the numbers, by all the games that are out there, but use common sense, use a feel for the market, and study the market so that you can develop more of that intuition and also understand who's moving these numbers. What's going to be the stopping point, the point of resistance? If you like the other side, you've got to know when the point of resistance is because it might show up for a half hour before somebody hits it and bumps it back down. So, again, this is all part of the betting process. The handicapping process is studying the game, is studying the matchups, is studying the situational elements. There is a concrete difference between betting and handicapping. Handicapping is what people do in the industry, writing game previews and things of that sort, and factoring in situational elements, coaching things, motivation, stuff like that. Betting comes in with knowing when to enter the market, knowing where to get the numbers, knowing what number you want to get, shopping around for the best prices that are out there. That's the betting side of it. There are two very different things between betting and handicapping, both of them important in different ways. But, again, that's really the difference. A lot of people can handicap a game. Not a lot of people can bet a game, getting a good piece of the number as opposed to setting for the worst of it. Getting the number at the right time. Sometimes you may get a game you really like it at minus 3.5. All of a sudden it goes down to 3, and you're sitting there thinking, damn it, I could have had minus 3. Being able to read the market, understanding the context that's out there, very, very important to your bottom line. So there is a difference between betting and handicapping, and it's very important to know that, and we'll talk about that a lot here on these shows. So